Good afternoon, children. In the last class, we studied about the lesson number 6, measurement and motion. So, today we'll move on to our next lesson, lesson number 7, the world of living. Now, we'll move on to our next lesson, lesson number 7, the world of living. So, when we move on to our the introduction part of this lesson, children, in the last class, you studied about the things that are present around us. For example, the things that is the table, chair, and the human beings that are present around us, and also we can observe the plants, animals, and the birds, the insects, the fishes, and the car, the cycle, bus. So these are the things that we see around us in our daily life. So these things can be classified into two types. The first one is the living and the second one is non-living. So how can we classify this as living? The things are classified into living and non-living. How can we classify, how can we judge them that whether they are living or non-living? So the things are based on their characteristics. Based on their characteristics, we can tell these things are considered as living things and the things are considered as non-living things. So how can we define the living things? The things which have life in them are called as living things and the things which do not have life in them are called as non-living things. So when we observe the basic characteristics of the things, for example, when we take up the breathe, the move, these are the characteristics, and the grow. So when we take up these characteristics, living things can breathe, living things can move, and the living things can grow. Whereas the non-living things cannot breathe, they cannot move, and they cannot grow. So the living things have certain characteristics. So in this chapter we are going to learn the certain characteristics of living things which differ them from non-living things. I think everyone have understood. So now in this class we are moving on to the next topic, that is the characteristics of living things. The things are being characterized according to their characters, that is they can breathe, they can move, they can grow. Now here we are going to learn in this class some of the characteristics of living things. Now when we see this chart, children, so here you are going to learn that the living things have cellular structure, living things can grow, living things need food and water, living things respire, living things move, living things respond to stimuli, living things reproduce, and living things excrete, and living things have a definite lifespan. So these are the 9 characteristics. You are going to learn them in this class in a detailed manner. So today we move on to the first characteristic, that is the living things have a cellular structure. So when we take up the living things have cellular structure, before going on to the living things, characteristics of living things, we have to know about the virus, children. This is the virus which has both the characteristics of living things and non-living things. So virus is a microorganism which cannot be seen through our naked eyes. It has both the characteristics of living and non-living things. So how it has both the characteristics of living and non-living things? So when it is outside the host cell, for example host cell, this is the host cell, you think, children, the host cell. If the virus is outside the host cell may be any animal, a human being or insect, okay, so the host cell is a living thing. When it is outside the host cell, it acts like a non-living thing. It acts like a non-living thing. So when the virus enters into the host cell, then what happens? It behaves like a living thing. It behaves like a living thing. It can reproduce. It takes up. It feeds on the host cell for its nutrition. Understood? So this virus, it acts. It has both the characteristics of living and non-living things. So now we'll move on to the characteristics of living things. The first one, all living things are made up of cells. So this is our first characteristics of living things. So the first characteristics of living things, all living things are made up of cell. So for example, now all living things are made up of cell. So now the living things, which are the living things, children, which we have learnt in the last class, that is in the first chapter, we learnt the plants, the animals. In this animals, insects, birds, everything come under this animals, and the next are the human beings. So these are the three basic biotic components that you have learnt in the first chapter. So all these living things are made up of a cell. They are made up of a cell. Okay. What is this cell? Cell, it is a basic unit of a living thing. What is a cell, children? It is called as the basic unit of life. Basic unit of life. Cell, it is defined as basic unit of life. Now for example, now you want to construct a house. So or when you are constructing a wall, children, what will the mason do? He'll take each brick. He'll take a brick and he'll construct a wall. So there, to construct the wall, each brick acts as a basic unit. Okay, it acts as a basic unit. So similarly, in the living things, these living things are made up of the cells. These are made up of the cell. So each and every cell in our body, okay, they are called as the basic unit of life. And we can also define cell. It is the structural and functional unit of an organism. Cell is also defined as it is a structural and functional unit of an organism. Structural. What is the meaning of structural? Structural means it gives a structure to an organism, and functional unit. All the functions or the different functions that takes place in an organism, they are taking place in each and every cell of the human body or the plants or the animal. So it is a structural and functional unit. It gives a structure and it also performs different functions in an organism. Now when we move on to the cell, okay, these cells, they are according to the types of cells, they are classified. Again, they are classified into two types, children. Now when we move on to the types of cells, they are classified on the number of cells. These are again classified into unicellular and multicellular. Now the organisms, they are according to the number of cells present in an organism. The cells are the organisms are called as unicellular organism and multicellular organism. Uni means single. Multi means many. Yes, the number of cells present in unicellular organism is only single celled organism. We call them as single celled organism, and the organisms which are made up of many cells, many number of cells, we call them as multicellular organisms. Here we can give the example of amoeba, yeast, next bacteria. The other examples are also there. So you will be learning in this class the examples of amoeba, yeast and bacteria. Here we can give the examples of human beings, plants and animals. So these are the organisms which have a single cell. So these organisms are called as unicellular organisms. These are the organisms which are made up of many cells. So they are called as multicellular organisms. And these organisms are microscopic in nature. The amoeba, yeast and bacteria, they are microscopic in nature, and they cannot be seen through our naked eyes. So they are all understood, children. And here the cells which are present in our body can be seen through the microscope. The cells which are present in our body, or in the amoeba or yeast or bacteria, or in the human beings, the plants, animals, cannot be seen through our naked eyes. They can be seen only through an instrument called microscope. So when we want to observe the cells under the microscope, you can just peel off for example, you can take the onion and just peel the onion and put it in a glass slab, and you can observe the cells. You can observe the number of cells present in the onion peel. So under the microscope, we can observe the cells under the microscope. So these have many cells. As they have many cells, they are called as multicellular. So I think you have understood the meaning of unicellular and multicellular. So now in the year when we take up in a newborn baby, children, in a newborn baby, what happens? What is the number of cells present in newborn baby? In a newborn baby, we can observe there are 2000 million cells, or we can also call as 200 crore cells. 200 crore cells are present. So as in the newborn baby, we can observe the 200 cells. In the normal adult person, as you grow, children, the number of cells goes on multiplying, and as you are growing, what happens? The number of cells go on multiplying, it increases, and it is 3.7 trillion cells. So 3.7 trillion cells are present, or approximately we can call them as 10,000 billion cells are present. Approximately, according to the size and according to it differs from one person to another person. The number of cells present in each individual goes on, it differs from one person to another person. Approximately it may be 10,000 billion cells. So these are the average the number of cells present in a normal adult person. I think everyone understood up to here. So now we'll move on to the unicellular organism. Just we'll learn about the amoeba, children. Okay. So now when we take up amoeba under the microscope, we can observe the amoeba. It is having an irregular shape. It is having a irregular shape. It doesn't have a regular shape. Yes, it doesn't have a regular shape. Yes. Yes. So this is the outer layer of the amoeba. It is called as the cell membrane. It is the cell membrane, and inside we can observe the nucleus, which is at the center. which controls all the activities of the amoeba. Understood? It controls all the activities and the important functions. For example, it may be the reproduction, it may be the growth or the nutrition or the taking the food, everything. All the processes that takes place in amoeba are controlled by the nucleus. And we can observe here it has a vacuole. Vacuole, it gives a structure to the amoeba. Vacuole, it gives a structure to the amoeba. And here we have the food vacuole. Okay, so this food vacuole, it helps the amoeba to absorb the food material from the outer surroundings. And here it is made up of, the amoeba is made up of a single cell. Amoeba is made up of a single cell. So this this single cell, it has the capacity to grow, multiply, and it can also take up the food from the outer surroundings. And the excretion process, it may be the feeding, the digestion, everything occurs in only one cell. So all the life processes, I am again repeating children, amoeba, as it is having a unicellular organism, all the life processes, that is the reproduction, respiration, digestion, feeding, excretion, okay, all this reproduction, everything happens in only one cell, and it can survive on its own with the capacity to grow, it can multiply, okay, and yes, as it has the capacity with the help of only one single cell. On the contrary, when we observe the multicellular organism, as it is having many cells, each and every cell they group together to perform different functions, and each and every cell they group together and they perform the different functions. It may be the digestion, it may be the reproduction. This you will be learning in the higher classes. In the next class, in the next lesson, we are going to learn this about the multicellular organism, about their respiration, the digestion, okay, excretion, all this you will be learning. So all the different many cells, they together combine together to perform one function, okay, whereas you have to understand here, or many cells they together group together to perform the different functions, whereas in amoeba only the single cell will perform all the different life processes. Understood? And here when it wants to engulf, when it wants to take up the food from the outer surroundings, children, here what it does, here you can observe the outer growth. This outer growth just it elongates like this, and we call this as pseudopodia. We call this as pseudopodia or the false feet. So this pseudopodia, as it bulges together, as it absorbs any food material here, what happens? It just enlarges itself and it engulfs. It engulfs the food material inside its body. Understood? So this is called as pseudopodia, which acts as a false feet and engulfs the food material into it. So this you are going to learn in detail in the next class. Okay children, so this is about the structure of amoeba. It contains a cell membrane, nucleus, pseudopodia, vacuole and the food vacuole. So now this is the first, okay, this is about the unicellular organism. So now I am going to the first characteristic of living things is all living things are made up of cells. So now we have completed the first characteristic of living things. In the next class we are going to move on to the next characteristics, children. Till then, okay, take care. Bye bye.